The doorbell rang at 2 a.m. I opened the door in my old, pilled pajamas. Outside stood a young girl, Zoe. She was smiling like a piece of candy. "Sorry to bother you so late, Lynn," she said. "Daniel asked me to bring you a message." Her voice was saccharine, but her posture was deferential. I looked her up and down. She was wearing the dress Daniel liked best, and the scent of her perfume, I'd smelled it on Daniel's coat last week. "What message?" I asked. Zoe pulled a platinum cufflink from her bag, pinched it between her fingers, and shook it slightly. "He stayed at my place last night, and this cufflink fell on the bed. He didn't want you to worry, so he asked me to bring it and explain." I recognized the cufflink. I'd given it to him for our 3rd anniversary. He wore it almost every day. Before I could say anything, the elevator dinged. Daniel came rushing out, his shirt wrinkled. His first glance wasn't at me, it was at Zoe. "What are you doing here?" He pulled Zoe behind him, then looked at me. "Lynn, don't misunderstand." Zoe's eyes welled up. "Daniel, I just didn't want Lynn to worry. I'm not misunderstanding," I said. Daniel frowned. "There you go with that look again. I was out until midnight for work. Zoe is an intern. She just helped cover for me when I drank too much. I passed out, and she let me rest at her place. Can you stop being paranoid all the time?" His hand still hovered protectively over Zoe's arm. Zoe wiped her eyes. "I'm sorry, Lynn. It's my fault. I shouldn't have interfered," but when she looked up at me, there were no tears, only a glint of challenge. Daniel's tone softened, but his words cut deeper. "Lynn, you've been cooped up at home too long. No job, no friends, always imagining things. You're acting like a bitter old woman." He paused, defining the situation. "Zoe's just a colleague, an intern. Stop making a scene. People are laughing at us." I looked at his hand on someone else, smelled the mix of perfumes in the air, and suddenly laughed. "Last Wednesday you came home at dawn, shirt smelling of perfume. You said it was from the KTV. The day before, you said you were working late. Your phone showed you at a hotel. Last night you said you were pulling an all-nighter for a project, and now your cufflink is in her hand." I spoke slowly, deliberately, word by word. Daniel's expression changed. "Enough. Go inside and say it there. Don't make a scene in the hallway." Zoe shrank behind him, looking scared. I nodded. "Fine. We'll go inside," I said, taking a deep breath and meeting his eyes. "Daniel, let's get a divorce." The air froze. Daniel stared at me, as if he didn't understand. "What did you say?" "Divorce," I repeated. "I'll contact a lawyer tomorrow. You don't have to come back tonight." Daniel froze for a few seconds, then exploded. "Lynn, are you insane? Divorce? How will you survive? You don't even pay for your own taxi rides." Zoe looked stunned too, forgetting to play the victim. I stepped back, resting my hand on the doorframe. "That's my business," I said. "Now take your intern and leave my house." I shut the door in his face. As the door clicked closed, I heard Daniel shouting outside. "You can't survive without me. You'll come crawling back." I didn't answer. The yelling went on for a few minutes. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Lynn, stop this. Open the door. Let's talk. You're a housewife with no income, no savings. If we divorce, will you sleep on the street?" I read it but didn't reply. A second text came right after. "Zoe has left. I know you're angry, but I was just drunk. Open the door. Let's handle this privately as husband and wife." I stared at the screen, my fingers growing cold. Then a third text appeared, from Zoe. "Lynn, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean it. Daniel only has you in his heart. He just felt sorry for me. Please don't be mad. I'll keep my distance. If you make a scene, it will be hard for him at work too." I deleted the messages. Suddenly, it was quiet outside. A few seconds later, I heard a key in the lock. Daniel had a key. He came in. His face was dark as iron. Seeing me still standing by the door, his tone softened slightly. "All right. Stop sulking. Go to sleep. Tomorrow I'll take you shopping for that bag you've been wanting." Zoe didn't come in, but she probably hadn't gone far. I didn't move. I said, "Divorce." Daniel had run out of patience. "Lynn, don't be ridiculous. Divorce? You live off me, eat my food, Wear my clothes, where would you go? He stepped forward, trying to grab me. I dodged. You leave tonight, I said, or I will. He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. You leave? Do you have money? Is your phone charged? Do you know what time it is? He was right. I was in pajamas. My phone at 20%, wallet on the coffee table, keys in the shoe cabinet. I had nothing, but I didn't want to spend another second in this house filled with his scent. Then I'll go, I said. I turned and stepped out, barefoot on the cold tile of the hallway. Daniel shouted behind me, "Lynn, are you out of your mind?" I didn't turn back. I pressed the elevator button. Before the doors closed, I saw him standing at the apartment door, his expression shifting from anger to shock to a smug certainty. He probably thought I wouldn't make it 3 blocks before turning back. The elevator descended to the first floor. I stepped out of the building barefoot. The late-night wind cut like knives against my skin. I hugged myself, shivering. The streets were empty. A taxi with its vacant light on drove by. I waved. It stopped. The driver rolled down the window. "Where to?" I opened my mouth and realized I had no money. I don't have money, I whispered. The driver's eyes changed immediately. He looked at me like I was trash. "No money? Get lost, crazy lady." He sped off. Exhaust fumes hit me in the face. I stood on the curb. Nowhere to go. My family lived out of town. Friends. I hadn't really contacted anyone in 3 years of marriage. Daniel was right. I had nothing. I walked along the street, sharp stones cutting into my bare feet, and finally ducked under the awning of a 24-hour convenience store. Curling up in a corner, warm light spilled from the windows. The clerk inside was a young girl, and she glanced at me several times. After a few minutes, she came out, holding a cup of hot water and an old coat. "Here, take this," she said softly. "It's cold tonight. Don't freeze." I took the hot water. It burned my fingers, but the warmth spread straight to my heart. "Thank you," I said, my voice hoarse. The girl shook her head. "It's nothing. Do you want to come in for a bit? It's really windy out here." I declined. I didn't want anyone to see me looking even more of a mess. She went back inside the store. I wrapped the old coat around myself, sipped the hot water, and stared at the lights of the upscale neighborhood across the street. How many women behind those windows were going through the same thing I was? Suddenly it hit me, I had lost myself over the past 3 years. I'd become just an accessory to Daniel. No job, no social life, no savings, not even the courage to resist. Marriage had been like a pot of water heating up a frog slowly, leaving me completely drained. My phone buzzed again. A 4th text from Daniel. "Had enough playing? If so, come back. I made you some noodles." I didn't open it. I just pressed and held the power button and shut the phone off. By dawn, I made my way to Sarah's building from memory. Sarah had been my college roommate. We hadn't stayed close after marriage, but I knew where she lived. Hoping for the best, I pressed the doorbell. A raspy voice came through the intercom. "Who's there?" "It's Sarah." "It's me, Lynn." A brief silence. Then the door clicked open. I took the elevator up. Just as I reached her door, it swung open. Sarah was in pajamas, hair messy, and the moment she saw me, her eyes went wide. "Holy crap! What did that bastard Daniel do to you?" She grabbed me and pulled me inside, inspecting me head to toe, barefoot, in thin pajamas, wrapped in a clearly ill-fitting old coat, hair tangled from the wind. "Don't say a word." She rushed to the bathroom, grabbed a towel and dry clothes. "Go take a hot shower. I'll find you something to wear." After my shower, I came out in Sarah's pajamas. On the coffee table sat a cup of hot milk she'd made. "Drink this," she commanded. I sat down and held the cup. It was scalding hot, but I drank it slowly, sip by sip. Sarah sat across from me, staring. "Spill." "That bastard cheated, didn't he?" I nodded. "You caught him in the act?" I nodded again. Sarah took a deep breath and unleashed a torrent of curses. "I knew it. That son of a, when he chased you, he acted all perfect. Now that he's got a bit of money, he's messing around. The nerve." She went on for a solid 5 minutes, her vocabulary so rich I was intermittently stunned. When she finally caught her breath, she looked at me. "So what are you going to do now?" I hadn't answered yet when my phone buzzed. It was Daniel calling. Sarah snatched it and put it on speaker. Lynn, have you had enough? Daniel's voice sounded tired but still condescending. You didn't come home all night. I couldn't reach you. Don't you know how worried I was? Come back. Let's talk. Sarah snorted. Oh, Daniel. Remember who this is? I'm Sarah. Lynn's at my place. Safe and sound, no need for you to worry. Maybe you should check on your little intern instead. Don't let her catch a cold. Dead silence on the other end for a few seconds. Sarah? This isn't your business. Give the phone to Lynn. She doesn't want it, Sarah said. Also, she asked me to tell you, the divorce papers will be prepared soon. Please cooperate. That's all. Goodbye. Wait, Daniel panicked. Sarah, don't meddle in our family. Lynn, don't listen to her. How will you live after divorce? You don't even have a proper resume. What can you do? Come back. We can work things out. I promise I'll cut things off with Zoe. Sarah rolled her eyes, about to retort, but I placed a hand on hers. I took the phone, turned off speaker, and held it to my ear. Daniel, I said, calm and even, the divorce papers will come from my lawyer. As for marital assets, including the house appreciation, I will claim my legal share. I don't need your promises anymore. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Lynn, don't push me. If you really divorce, I won't give you a penny. My parents paid the down payment. It's none of your business. Then let the court decide. I said, by the way, our conversation in the hallway last night with Zoe, I recorded it. Do you want to hear it? I hadn't actually recorded it, but I knew he wouldn't gamble. Sure enough, Daniel went silent. His voice started to shake. When did you become like this? From the moment you stood at my door with your mistress. I said, goodbye, Daniel. I hung up and blocked his number. Sarah looked at me, eyes shining. Badass, she said, slapping my shoulder. Should have done this ages ago. Why keep a piece of trash around? I put down the phone and stared out the window as the sky slowly brightened. I hadn't slept all night and was exhausted. I stayed at Sarah's for 3 days. During that time, I didn't contact Daniel or check any of his messages. Sarah helped me get in touch with a divorce lawyer and set an appointment for the day after tomorrow. On the 4th afternoon, the doorbell rang. Sarah went to open it. I heard her curse from the living room. What are you doing here? I walked over and saw Daniel standing outside, Zoe at his side. Zoe held a thermal pot, dressed simply, looking timid. Sarah, we came to apologize to Lynn, Zoe said softly. I made some soup to help her recover. Daniel looked displeased but tried to keep up appearances. Lynn, let's talk. Don't make a scene at someone else's house. Sarah blocked the door. Who's making a scene? This is my house. You're not welcome. Get out. Zoe's eyes immediately filled with tears. Daniel, it's all my fault. Maybe I should leave. So Lynn doesn't get mad at me. She turned to leave, but Daniel grabbed her. Don't go. He looked at me, accusing. Lynn, look at the poor girl, you've scared her. She's just trying to apologize. Do you really have to be so relentless? No grace at all. I watched him hold Zoe's hand and couldn't help but laugh. 3 days ago, he swore he'd cut things off. 3 days later, he comes here with her, daring to humiliate me. Daniel, I said, my voice low but firm, take her and leave my friend's house. Daniel froze. The lawyer will send the papers to your office tomorrow. I continued. Until then, I don't want to see you, or her. Zoe's tears fell. She was genuinely panicked. Lynn, please don't do this. I can quit. I can leave the company, if only you two could reconcile, stop pretending. I cut her off. Whether you quit or not is none of my business. Now leave. Daniel's face flushed red and white in turns. He probably didn't expect me to call his bluff, and certainly not in front of someone else. Lynn, do you really have to take this far? He ground out. You're the one making a scene. I said, bringing your mistress to provoke your wife. Daniel, you're the one who burned this bridge. Sarah had had enough. She shoved them both. Hear me? Get out. If you don't leave, I'm calling the cops for breaking and entering. She was strong. Daniel stumbled backward from the push. Zoe screamed. The thermal pot fell, soup spilling across the floor. You're insane. She cried. You're the insane ones, Sarah yelled back. Scumbag. Homewrecker. May you never harm anyone else. Get out! She shoved them completely outside and slammed the door. Bang! The sound echoed down the hallway. Outside came Daniel's furious shouting and Zoe's crying, slowly fading away. Sarah, breathing hard, turned to me. You okay? I shook my head. Not only was I okay, I felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted off me. The next day, after the divorce papers were sent, I went downstairs to take out the trash. Just outside the building, I saw Zoe leaning against the wall, clearly waiting for me. No makeup, eyes red and puffy, looking pitiful, but the look in her eyes was sharp, like a poison blade. Lynn, she called out. I held the garbage bag and kept walking. She hurried to block my path. We need to talk. I have nothing to say to you. About Daniel, she said softly. Do you really want to ruin him? He loves you so much. Driving him to the edge, what good does that do you? I stopped and looked at her. Love? I laughed. You mean the kind of love where he sleeps with an intern while telling me he loves me? Zoe paled, then sneered. He doesn't care about you anymore. He said you're like a nanny, no charm, no sophistication, embarrassing to take out. He's only happy with me. He feels alive with me. She stepped closer, venom in her voice. Do you know what he really thinks of you? He said you're useless. Without him, you couldn't survive. All you do is cook and clean, what else? You couldn't even get a job. I'm young, pretty. I can help him socially, bring him resources. You're a burden. I listened quietly, strangely unmoved. So that's how Daniel saw me. 3 years of giving. Wasted, just a joke. Finished? I asked. Zoe froze. You're not angry? Angry? I smiled. For trash? Not worth it. Her face flushed. Who are you calling trash? Whoever responds, I said, tossing the garbage bag into the bin, clapping my hands. Oh, and one more thing, those resources you bragged about? Trading drinks and sex for business favors. Right? Want me to take a little chat with HR about intern ethics? Zoe's eyes went wide. You wouldn't. Why wouldn't I? I stepped closer, watching panic flash across her face. Seduce a married man, destroy a family, and think you're proud of it? Zoe, would your parents even know what you've been doing? Shut up! She screamed, raising a hand to hit me. I grabbed her wrist, squeezing hard. Her face twisted in pain. Hit me? I leaned close to her ear, voice ice cold. That's assault. I can call the cops right now. Your record will show a crime. You'll never get a real job. Want to try? She struggled violently, but I didn't let go. Let go! You crazy woman. Let me see you near me again. I said, word by word. And I'll send your hotel records and chat screenshots to your boss and your parents. I mean it. I released her wrist. She staggered back, hitting the wall, a red mark circling her wrist. For the first time, fear flickered in her eyes. You, just wait. She spat, terrified, then ran, nearly twisting an ankle in her heels. I stayed where I was, watching her disappear around the corner. The anger I'd been holding in for 3 years finally poured out. A week later, I met Daniel at the law firm. He came alone, in a suit, dark circles under his eyes, obviously sleep-deprived. My lawyer, MS. Chin, a sharp middle-aged woman, slid a document across the table. Mr. Daniel, this is the draft divorce agreement. Please review. Daniel ignored it, staring at me instead. Lynn, do we really have to do this? His voice was hoarse. I know I was wrong. I ended things with Zoe. Can't we go home and work this out? I stayed silent. MS. Chin spoke. Mr. Daniel, please review the agreement. Regarding asset division, under the marriage law, we request division of the house appreciation from jointly paid mortgages, and half of your personal savings. Daniel snatched the papers, flipping through them, face growing pale. Half my savings? House appreciation. He looked up, eyes red. Lynn, you're insane. My parents paid the down payment. The savings are mine. What have you contributed these past 3 years? You don't even have a job. MS. Chin stayed calm. MS. Lynn took care of all household responsibilities during the marriage and sacrificed her career. That is legally considered a contribution to the family. Marital property is jointly owned and subject to fair division. I won't sign. Daniel slammed the papers down. Go ahead and sue me. Let's see which court will side with your ridiculous demands. The room fell silent. I picked up another document and placed it in front of him. Let's talk about this first. He looked down, face immediately pale. It was a printout of his chat history with Zoe, explicit flirting, complaints about our marriage, even his comments about company leaders. Where did you get this? He stammered. From your old phone, I said. When you upgraded, I used it. I recovered the data. Actually, he hadn't deleted it properly, but I didn't need to tell him that. Daniel slumped back in his chair, like all the bones had been drained from his body. What do you want? He rasped. Sign the agreement. I said. I can take less of the cash savings, but the appreciation on the apartment has to be split. And I want $100,000 as compensation, startup money for my new life. It wasn't an outrageous demand. Lawyer Chen had already assessed it. If we went to court, I could get more, but I didn't want to drag this out. I wanted it over. Daniel buried his face in his hands, shoulders shaking. After a long time, he said hoarsely, I don't have that much cash. You can sell the car, or borrow from friends. I said without mercy. You have 1 week. He looked up at me, his eyes complicated, anger, confusion, and a trace of regret. Lynn, he said softly, is there really no way back for us? I didn't answer. This isn't a discussion. I stood up. It's a notice. 1 week from now. Bring the money and the signed papers. Here. I turned to leave. Just before I reached the door, I heard him mutter, let me think. I didn't turn around. 1 week later, Daniel showed up as agreed. He'd lost weight. His eyes were sunken, beard untrimmed. He held a folder in his hands. Lawyer Chen checked the agreement and the transfer receipt, then nodded at me. Everything's in order. Daniel looked at me, hesitating. Zoe quit, he said suddenly. I made her leave. I cut things off completely. I didn't respond. I picked up the pen and signed my name. The pen scratched across the paper. 3 seconds. 3 years of marriage, over. I slid the agreement toward him. He stared at my signature, his hand trembling. He picked up the pen, hovering over the page, unable to bring it down. Lynn, his voice was raw. If I say I truly know I was wrong, can we sign it? I interrupted. Let's not waste each other's time. His eyes reddened. This time, it wasn't fake. There were real tears. I never thought it would come to this, he choked. I thought you'd never leave me. That was your assumption, I said. In the end, he signed. Each stroke was heavy, like carving on a gravestone. When he finished, he dropped the pen and covered his face. I didn't look at him. I gathered the documents and stood. Lawyer Chen will handle the remaining procedures. I said, goodbye, Daniel. As I reached the door, he called out behind me, Lynn. I stopped, but didn't turn around. Take care of yourself, he said, his voice broken. I will, I replied. I opened the door and walked out. After the divorce, I stayed at Sarah's place for another month. That month, I did 3 things. First, I used the money to rent a small apartment. Second, I enrolled in a short-term software skills course. Third, I updated my resume. My major was graphic design. Before marriage, I'd worked 2 years at a small company. 3 years away had dulled my hands, but the foundation was still there. On the day the course ended, Sarah dragged me out shopping. Buy some decent clothes. I'll go with you to interviews tomorrow, she said. I stood in front of the fitting room mirror, looking at myself. My face was still a little pale, but my eyes were no longer empty. Anxiety had made me thinner, but my back was straight. Not bad, I told myself. Still salvageable. Sarah picked out a clean, simple suit dress for me, then took me to get my hair cut. Short hair, sharp and neat. I looked more alive. The next day, I interviewed at a small design studio. The boss was a man in his early 40s named Ken. He flipped through my portfolio, frowning. 3 years without work? He asked. Yes, I said honestly. I was a housewife after getting married. Recently divorced. I want to start over. Ken looked up at me, Why the divorce? It was personal, but after a moment, I answered truthfully. My ex cheated. Ken nodded, made no comment, and continued flipping pages. Your work from 3 years ago still has taste, he said bluntly, but your technical skills are outdated. We move fast here. Projects are messy. Overtime is common. Can someone who's been out for 3 years keep up? My heart sank, but I didn't back down. I can learn, I said. Overtime is fine. Lower pay is fine. I just want a chance. Ken closed the portfolio and studied me for a few seconds. 3-month probation. $4,000 a month. No social insurance. Can you accept that? $4,000. Very low. But to me, it was a lifeline. Yes, I said immediately. Come in tomorrow, Ken said. Start with basic image retouching. Learn from the seniors. 3-month review. If you can't cut it, you're out. Thank you, Mr. Ken. I stepped out of the studio. Sunlight hit my face. The job was exhausting, but I learned like a sponge. Most of my coworkers were young, not particularly warm to an older newbie, but not hostile either. As long as they were willing to teach, I was willing to learn. After a month, I could finally handle simple design tasks on my own. On payday, I went to the bank and withdrew the cash. 4,000 yuan, a thin stack. I held it in my hands for a long time. This was the first money I'd earned myself in 3 years. I bought Sarah a necklace, then went to the supermarket to get ingredients, planning to cook a proper celebration dinner. When I left the store, it was already dark. I carried the bags toward my apartment, feeling like someone was following me. I looked back several times, no one there. Still uneasy, I quickened my pace. Just before reaching my building, I caught a glimpse of a red glow in the streetlight's shadow, a cigarette. Someone was leaning against the wall, smoking. The silhouette was painfully familiar. Daniel. I stopped short. My heart clenched. He saw me, flicked the cigarette away, and walked over. Lynn, he said softly. I was just passing by. I wanted to see you. Passing by? I lived on the east side. He lived on the west. Passing by my ass. Do you need something? I asked coldly. He wore an old jacket, hair messy, eyes avoiding mine. Are you doing okay? Very well, I said. If there's nothing else, I'm going upstairs. Wait. He stepped forward anxiously. I heard you found a job. Where do you work? Is it tiring? Is the pay enough? If it's not, no need. I cut him off. Daniel, we're divorced. My life has nothing to do with you. His face went pale. I know. I just worry. You're a woman. On your own, it's not easy out there. Whether it's easy or not has nothing to do with you, I said, walking past him toward the entrance. Suddenly, he reached out and grabbed my wrist. I jerked my arm away like I'd been burned. Don't touch me! His hand froze midair. Hurt flickered in his eyes. Lynn, do we really have to do this? Even if we're divorced, we had 3 years together. Can't you acknowledge that? You're the one who erased me first. I stared him down. When you stood at my door with Zoe, our relationship died. Now leave. Don't show up in front of me again. His lips quivered, eyes red again. I'm sorry. I really know I was wrong. I regret it every single day. Lynn, can you give me one more chance? We can remarry. I promise I'll treat you right. Impossible. I cut him off. Sharp. Daniel, don't make me lose respect for you. He froze. I swiped my card, entering the building. Before the glass doors closed, I saw him still standing there, like a child abandoned. But inside me, there wasn't a trace of emotion. Back home, I pulled out my phone and blocked every number, every social account he might use. The world was suddenly quiet. Another month passed. Work was starting to click. Ken assigned me a slightly more complex project. I pulled 2 all-nighters, and the client seemed satisfied with my designs. On payday, Sarah dragged me out for hot pot to celebrate. We have to celebrate. Congrats to Lynn. Back in the workforce and scoring her first win, she shouted, raising a beer. We were laughing, eating by the window, when a familiar voice cut through. Well, fancy meeting you here, Lynn. I looked up. Zoe was standing by our table, arm linked with a stranger. Low-cut dress. Heavy makeup. Smile sweet as sugar, but malice flashed in her eyes. Who's this? Sarah raised an eyebrow. My boyfriend. Mike. Zoe cooed, leaning into him. Mike. This is Daniel's ex-wife. Lynn. Mike nodded politely, but there was a sharp, judging edge in his gaze. Zoe turned to me, raising her voice just enough for nearby tables to hear. Lynn. I heard life's been hard since your divorce. Where are you working? Struggling for money? I know Daniel and I broke up, but I can still help you out a bit. Nearby diners were now pricking up their ears. Sarah sneered. Oh, look, it's the innocent intern. So, new boyfriend. Ha, which exec is he this time? Or is she covering drinks again? Zoe's face twitched, but she quickly recovered her smile. Sarah, always joking. Mike and I are serious, marriage-minded. Unlike some people, divorced. Working hard for a pittance, waiting for payday to even afford hot pot. She covered her mouth and giggled. Mike frowned slightly, sensing it had gone too far, but said nothing. People at nearby tables were whispering, staring at me. I put down my chopsticks, wiped my mouth. Zoe, I said calmly, that necklace around your neck, Daniel bought that. Didn't he? Last year on my birthday. He showed me the exact same one and asked if I liked it. I said no, it was tacky. Didn't expect him to give it to you instead. Zoe instinctively covered the necklace. Her face flushed bright red. You're lying. Mike bought this. Oh, really? I smiled. The inside should be engraved. Right? DZ? Daniel and Zoe? Zoe froze, letting go. The necklace slipped down her chest, trapped in her collar. She was speechless. Mike's face darkened. What's going on? Don't listen to her. She's jealous. Zoe blurted. Sarah poured gasoline on the fire. Jealous? Jealous of the girl picking up what others threw away? Jealous of a mistress flaunting her success? Have some shame. Sister, that dress is Daniel's gift too, isn't it? Taste never changes, does it? People around were already taking out their phones. Zoe trembled, furious. She grabbed a water cup and hurled it at Sarah. I reacted fast, pulling Sarah back. The cup emptied on the floor. The hot pot restaurant owner rushed over. What's going on? Take it outside if you want to fight. Zoe pointed at us, screaming. They insulted me first. Insult who? A nearby older woman interjected. Sweetheart, we all heard you start it, acting all high and mighty as a mistress. Kids these days. Seriously, exactly. Shameless. Quick. Film it. Post it online. The murmurs grew louder. Mike's face turned black. He yanked Zoe's hand and walked away. Mike, wait. Let me explain. Zoe tried to follow, but the crowd blocked her. She turned and glared at me. Murderous. I met her stare, expressionless. In the end, amidst pointing fingers and laughter, she covered her face and fled. Sarah sat back down, swiping a piece of tripe into the hot pot. Hell yeah, she laughed. Come on, eat. This one's on me. Celebrating scumbags locked out. Justice served. I laughed too. Life went on steadily. By the third month at work, Ken called me in. Probation's over, he said, tossing a new contract. Full-time, $6,000 a month. Social insurance included. Good work earns project bonuses. Sign or not? Sign, I said without hesitation, walking out with the contract signed. My steps felt light. Finally, I was rooted in this city again. On a weekend, I went to a cafe to revise designs. I'd barely sat down when I noticed Zoe, alone, across the table diagonally, on the phone. Her voice was low but loud enough for me to hear. Yeah, we broke up. Whatever. Plenty of men out there. Daniel? Haven't heard from him in ages. Heard he's struggling. Maybe layoffs coming. The compensation he gave me? Enough to live well for a while. His ex-wife? Haha. Heard she's slogging in some tiny studio. A few thousand a month. Serves her right, no skill. Couldn't keep a man. Her voice rose, deliberately loud, aimed at me. Women have to rely on themselves. Me? I'm free. Buy whatever I want. Those old hags? Stuck with their tiny paychecks. Slowly turning into old women, I kept my head down, revising my designs. pretending not to hear. But some of the cafe patrons were already frowning. Zoe hung up, lifted her coffee cup, and sauntered over like she owned the place. "Lynn, what a coincidence," she said, sliding into the seat across from me, her smile fake. "I was just chatting with a friend. Didn't disturb you, did I?" I looked up. "What do you want?" "Nothing. Just checking in on you." She tossed her hair. "Heard you got a promotion? Congrats. The pay's a bit low, but for someone your age with no experience, that's not bad at all." I said nothing. She went on, performing. "Honestly, I feel a bit sorry for you. You insisted on divorcing to prove a point. And, look at you now. Life's harder than before. Daniel may have cheated, but at least he gave you money. Why put yourself through this?" I closed my laptop. "Zoe," I said, "do you know why you can't stop watching me?" Her smile faltered. "Because you feel guilty," I said slowly. "What you stole was never yours to begin with. You think you won, but you lost the most. You've got nothing but youth and a few tricks. When your youth fades, and your tricks fail, what do you have left?" Her face went pale. "You and me," I interrupted. "I've got hands, feet, and a brain. I can earn my own living. I can start over. Leaving a trash man was my luck. You pick up other people's garbage and pretend it's treasure. That's real pitiful." Zoe's face contorted with rage. She slammed her cup down, spilling coffee everywhere, and jumped to her feet. "Lynn, don't get cocky. Who do you think you are? A washed-up, unwanted divorcee? I'll see how long you can keep that smug attitude." Her voice pierced the cafe. Every head turned. At that moment, the cafe door opened. Daniel stepped in. His shirt was wrinkled, stubble on his chin, eyes hollow, holding a document. He froze when he saw us. Zoe grabbed him like he was a lifeline. "Daniel, perfect timing. Look at her, divorced and still acting so high and mighty, spreading lies about me. You've got to say something." Daniel looked at me, then at the mess on the floor and the cafe patron staring. He yanked his hand free from hers. "Enough," he barked. Zoe froze. "Daniel?" His gaze was full of disgust and exhaustion. "Zoe, it's over," he said hoarsely but clearly. "Stop clinging to me. Stop harassing Lynn. I was the one at fault. Being with you was a mistake. Now leave, and never come back." Zoe looked like she'd been struck by lightning, pale as a ghost. You can't mean that, Daniel. I remember everything." He cut her off, eyes ice cold. "I remember how you seduced me. I remember how you forced me to divorce. I remember how you ruined my life. My job's nearly gone. My money's nearly gone. Happy now? Get out!" That final "get out" was almost a roar. The cafe went silent. Zoe covered her face, crying, but this time no one felt sorry for her. She glared at me, then at Daniel, and finally fled in humiliation. All eyes on her. Daniel stayed where he was, head down, shoulders slumped. After a few seconds, he came to my table, voice low. "Sorry for dragging you into this again." I didn't respond. He didn't expect me to. He turned and walked out slowly. The door's bell tinkled behind him. I reopened my laptop and continued editing my designs. Inside, I felt a quiet, steady peace. After my promotion, I threw myself into work. Ken took on a local brand's visual redesign project. I volunteered for the core design team. After more than a month of late nights and a dozen revisions, the client approved my main visual. The project was a success. The brand sales jumped 30%. At the celebration dinner, Ken announced in front of everyone that I'd earned a 20,000 yuan bonus and a promotion to design team leader. Lynn proved that age and a career gap aren't obstacles, he said, raising his glass. Anyone who says women over 30 have no value, I'll be the first to disagree. The applause from colleagues felt genuine this time. I used the bonus to rent a better one-bedroom apartment with big south-facing windows. On moving day, Sarah helped me. We sat on the bare floor, drinking beer. "This is so good," she said, watching the sunset. "You're alive again." "Yeah," I nodded. "Alive." Not long after, I heard from former colleagues that Daniel's company had gone through layoffs. He was on the list. New jobs weren't working out. Income was way down. And apparently, He was just helping out at a friend's company. Zoe? She'd hooked up with some wealthy boss, but soon got publicly humiliated by the ex-wife and vanished from the scene. I heard all this while preparing a submission for an international design competition, my visual redesign for that local brand. I didn't have high hopes, just wanted to prove something to myself.
3 months later, I got an email in full English. My project had made the top 50 in the competition. Just being shortlisted was a huge international achievement. Ken was more excited than me. In the office, he yelled, "Lynn, you are amazing. Our studios never had anyone reach this level." He immediately gave me a raise to 8,000 yuan and recommended me for an international design exchange program in France. "Company covers half. You cover half. Are you going?" he asked. I stared at the photo of Paris and the invitation and took a deep breath. Yes, I'm going. It was something I had to do. A week before leaving, I went to my old apartment to gather my last things. The place had been sold. Price agreed. Closing in a few days. I sorted through old belongings, mostly small, worthless items, but each held memories. The doorbell rang, assuming it was the agent. I opened it and saw Daniel. He was thin, almost gaunt, hair streaked with gray, wearing a cheap jacket, carrying a plastic bag. He shifted awkwardly when he saw me. I came for some books I left, he said hoarsely. "Heard you're leaving the country? News travels fast." "Yeah." I stepped aside to let him in. He walked around the familiar room, eyes empty. There was nothing of his here anymore. "How long?" he asked. 1 month for the exchange. After that, we'll see. Maybe I'll stay and explore opportunities. He looked at me sharply. "You're not coming back?" "Not sure." His lips moved, as if to speak, then stopped. Finally, he pulled a small box from the plastic bag. "This is for you," he said, extending it. "Found it while cleaning up before yours." I kept forgetting to return it. I took the box and opened it. Inside was an old silver ring I'd bought with my part-time earnings back in college. It wasn't worth much, but I had worn it for years. I had forgotten it when I left after the divorce. "Thank you," I said. He looked at my calm face and suddenly broke down. "Lynn," his voice trembled. "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I ruined our home. I ruined you. I ruined myself." He sank to the floor, hands covering his face, shoulders shaking violently. "I regret it every single day. I lost my job. My friends drifted away. My parents scold me. I have nothing. Why did I do that to you? I must have been crazy." I stood there, watching him sob, feeling neither hatred nor sympathy, only complete indifference. "Daniel," I said after his crying subsided, "it's all in the past." He lifted his head, tears blurring his vision, staring at me. "We really can't even be friends?" "No need," I said. "Let's just live our own lives. I hope you find the life you truly want." His eyes shifted from hope to despair to an empty gray. He knew this was final. "I understand," he said. Slowly he stood, wiped his face, tried to force a smile, but it looked worse than crying. Then, "Farewell," he said. "Thank you." He gave one last glance at the space that had once been ours, then turned and walked out. The door closed behind him. I picked up the old ring, looked at it, then placed it back in the box and dropped it into a trash bag I was about to throw away. Paris, France. The design exchange program gathered young designers from all over the world, black, white, brown, speaking English with every accent imaginable, talking design, ideas, creativity. At the final exhibition, my submission won the most commercially promising award. It wasn't the top prize, but the judges' comments brought tears to my eyes. "This designer from China has perfectly combined local cultural elements with modern commercial demands, showing exceptional balance and insight. Her work is not only aesthetically beautiful but also soulful." When I walked on stage to receive the award, the lights were blinding. I looked out at all those faces of different colors and suddenly remembered that night a year ago, standing barefoot in the cold wind in my pajamas. It felt like another life. An old Frenchman presented the award. He shook my hand and said in halting Chinese, "Congratulations, young lady, you are amazing." I said, "Thank you, truly, thank you. Thank you to the me who walked away that night without looking back. Thank you to the me who accepted the cup of hot water in the convenience store. Thank you to the me who said, I can learn at the interview." After the program, several local studios offered me internships or collaborations. I chose a small studio with a philosophy I liked and signed a 3-month contract. Ken supported me wholeheartedly. "Go for it. Your position here is waiting. You can always come back." I rented a small loft in Paris, slanted windows with a view of the Eiffel Tower in the distance. I rode a second-hand bike to work, discussed designs with colleagues, bought bread and cheese at the market. cooked simple dinners. On weekends, I strolled along the Seine, visited museums, or sat in quiet cafes, lost in thought. Life was simple, full, and free. I was no longer Daniel's ex-wife, no longer the woman who got cheated on. I was Lynn, a woman learning again how to love herself, how to live. 6 months later, my short contract ended, but I continued remote collaboration with the studio on projects in China. I earned enough to live comfortably in Paris and save a little. One spring evening, I sat outside a cafe by the Seine, sipping hot chocolate, watching the sunset turn the river golden. My phone buzzed. Sarah's WeChat. Funny story, she wrote. Daniel came to me yesterday asking about you, if you're coming back to China, if you have a boyfriend. I told him none of his business. He actually cried and said losing you was the biggest regret of his life. Geez, where was he before? I smiled and sent a sticker in reply. By the way, she sent again. Heard he still hasn't found a proper job, surviving on odd gigs, tense with his parents. Zoe apparently married some old guy abroad, and we never heard from her again. Karma's a bitch. I didn't reply. After a while, Sarah asked, when will you come back to see me? I miss you. I typed, next month. I have a project meeting in China. We'll grab hot pot then, my treat. Deal. I set down my phone and returned my gaze to the sunset. The wind carried the scent of the river and the blossoms of spring. I opened my photo album and scrolled to the bottom, an old photo of Daniel and me, taken shortly after we married, both of us smiling foolishly. A few seconds later, I hit delete. I then opened my contacts, and the number I had long blocked but not deleted, Daniel's, was gone forever. I finished these small rituals, lifted my now cool hot chocolate, and took a sip. It was sweet. In the distance, the Eiffel Tower's lights blinked on, winking. Back in that city in China, Daniel was probably somewhere nursing his regret, trapped in a past long rotted away. But that had nothing to do with me. My past was closed, sealed. My future unfolded before me, under this unfamiliar sky. Night was gentle. I sat by the river in a foreign land, calm, full, alive. This was what living felt like. Free, determined, moving forward, never looking back.